He was the founder of Music Industry Research Association, MIRA, and I'm a research member. That's why I had the opportunity to work closely with him from December 2017 to June 2018 on the project which is called the well-being of musicians. And it was tragic that Alan Kruger passed away in March 2019. And I've been very determined to continue our study. And I'm currently writing a book with 3 co-authors on the music industry with a focus on the labor market of musicians and a comparison between musicians in the United States and in China. Here you can find our sample information. So in order to further our understanding of the music industry, the Music Industry Research Association and Princeton University Survey Research Center, in partnership with MusiCares, conducted a survey of 1,227 musicians and composers between April the 12th to June the 2nd. And before that, we were designing and finalizing the survey. So it took us about 4 months. We targeted at individuals who earned a living as a musician or composer, or those who were endeavoring to earn a living through making music. That's why I'm not qualified, although I consider myself as a fake pianist. I started playing piano since 6 years old, and I love improvisation. Our sample is non-random, so this is a main drawback of our sample because it wasn't possible to recruit a large random sample of musicians or one with known probability weights in proportion to their representation in the population. That's why our results should be viewed as providing an approximation at best of the population of musicians. And we compared our sample with the ACS sample, which is the American Community Survey sample. And from the table, we can see that our sample turns out to be closely representative of the U.S. population of musicians in terms of race and ethnicity, gender, and marital status. However, our sample is somewhat older and more highly educated than American Community Survey sample. And also, our sample tend to earn a higher income. The median musicians in the U.S. earned between $20,000 and $25,000 a year in the period from 2012 to 2016, according to the ACS data. But in our sample, the median musician reported earning nearly $35,000 in 2017. So it's higher, but it's still relatively low. And you can see the major findings in our report. So here is a quick tour in our report. Our report covers mainly 3 aspects. One is on the career challenges of musicians, and second is on discrimination on gender. And third is the health of musicians, which focuses on mental health and drug and alcohol use. Yeah, but today my presentation would focus on the career side. And here you can see the top 10 genres performed in 2017. So top 10 out of 25 that musicians could choose in our survey. Yeah, so their percentages and their types, right, are very clearly listed here. Yeah. And also the questionnaire asked musicians to report their primary instrument. And also here you can clearly see that guitar, right, is the top one primary instrument, which accounted for 25%, and then piano and keyboard 17%. Yeah, so this is an overview. The survey asked the musicians to indicate what they liked most about being a musician and what they liked least about being a musician. They could select multiple items from the list, and Table 3 summarizes their responses. Musicians highlighted the opportunity for artistic expression, performing, and collaborating with others as the most preferred aspects of being a musician. Yeah, and unfortunately, this is the only thing positive throughout our survey report. Yeah, and on the negative side, financial insecurity, and time spent marketing themselves stood out as the least preferred aspects of being a musician. Generally, a similar pattern was found for men and women and for whites and non-whites. A 58-year-old musician described the financial challenges that musicians face as follows. At the local level, the pay for a nightclub gig in 1978 was an average of $100. 40 years later, it is the same or less, while the cost of bread, gas, milk, alcohol, housing continues to rise. Yeah, so it's very sad. So here you can find even more details, especially in terms of the percentages, and also I compared some shares. So for example, 80% of musicians in the sample consider artistic expression the biggest enjoyment being a musician. Such a share is similar between white and non-white musicians. However, such a share is higher for female musicians than male musicians, 82.2% versus 79.5%. And performing and collaborating with others are considered top 2 and 3 enjoyment after artistic expression by around 60 to 70% of musicians in the sample. Such shares are almost equal between genders and white and non-white groups. And for point 3, so you can find the details, and such a share is equal between genders. However, such a share is significantly higher for non-white musicians than white musicians. So 78.2% versus 67.3%. And in addition to financial security, 35 to 40% of musicians consider time and effort put into marketing oneself, unknown career trajectory, opportunity costs as the top challenges. Such shares are almost equal between genders and white and non-white groups. Okay, and Table 1 is the focus of my presentation today because Table 1 shares the 17 possible sources of music-related income. And also you can see, right, the share of music-related income and median amount are earned income from each resources, those percentages. This table shows that by far the most common source of income is performing live events. 81% of musicians earned income from live events in 2017, and these performances accounted for 42% of the average musician's music-related income. The median amount of income earned from live events for those who reported receiving income from this source was $5,428. Therefore, we can see the mean was much higher, which was $13,527. Therefore, this indicates a high degree of skewness. The second and third most common source of music-related income in 2017 that were selected were giving music lessons, which accounted for 42%, and performing in a church choir or other religious service, which accounted for about 38%. And the second and the third most common sources of music-related income accounted for 12% and 16% of the average musician's music-related income, respectively. Together with live performances, these three activities accounted for more than 2/3, around 70% of the average musician's music-related income. And also, we can find more details. And of course, the income is sufficiency. Yeah, so this is the main issue. Yeah, 61% of the musicians in the samples music-related income is not sufficient to meet their living expenses, and 36% of the musicians' total income from music and non-music sources is not sufficient to meet their living expenses. Yeah, and for point one, such a share among male musicians is slightly lower than that of female musicians. However, such a share among white musicians is significantly lower than that of non-white musicians, 57% versus 75.5% respectively. As for point two, such a share among male musicians is slightly lower than that of female musicians, 35% versus 38% respectively. However, such a share among white musicians is significantly lower than that of non-white musicians, 32% versus 50% respectively. This also reveals the surprising fact that half of non-white musicians' total income is not sufficient to meet their living expenses. Yeah, so very alarming results. And also, our survey reveals that in the last 7 days, right, musicians on average spent 14 hours earning income from performing, and they on average spend 8 hours on paid work that is not related to music, 3.68 hours on both paid work, giving music lessons and composing music. Yeah, so we found that in 2017, the median musicians earned income from 3.5 different sources, and the average musician earned income from 3 different sources. Yeah, so our results were very consistent with my piano teacher's situation. Yeah, so he said, maybe back in 1990s, he even had like 5 different sources of income. So on average, they are struggling for sure. And I also explored more on the important factors affecting musicians' overall income and music-related income. So here we can find out more details. All else being equal, white musicians' individual pre-tax income in 2017 was 21.8%, significantly lower than that of non-white musicians. Other factors such as musicians' educational attainment, age, gender, whether attending a high school featuring in music or performing arts education, whether being born in the US are not important. And all else being equal, an additional year of education will increase a musician's music-related income by around 7%. And attending a high school featuring in music and performing arts education would increase a musician's music-related income by 27%. Surprisingly, being born in the US resulted in a 39.5% drop in the music-related income. Yeah, so this requires more exploration. Okay, as most of our sample was from MusiCare, yeah, so I also explored would MusiCare membership matter to music-related income, because our sample overall, right, their average income was higher than that of ACS group. Yeah, so here I found out more details. MusiCares members' music-related income is 45.7% less than non-members, less. And for MusiCares members, there is no significant music-related earnings differential between white and non-white musicians. However, female musicians earn 34.1% less than male musicians. So we still see a very significant gender wage gap. Attending a high school featuring in music and performing arts education is associated with 42.9% higher income, all else being equal. Yeah. So this is what I have found so far on the career part. And here we have several next steps. Yeah, so we wanted to make data available to MIRA members and draw attention to disturbing findings to improve conditions for musicians. And we want to follow them up so we could create longitudinal data and also survey, hopefully every year or even every other year. But since Alan Kruger passed away, right? So things have changed, but I'm still very determined to continue our study because it's a very meaningful project. It raises concern from our society to the musician group. And also, I'd like to compare the musician group in the US and in China, because based on my experience, musicians in China, a lot of them actually are doing great job, especially in terms of income. So it's interesting to find out the reasons, and then, right, that might benefit musicians in both countries. Okay, thank you for your time, and I'm willing to take questions at the end.